it real.
Yeah.
This is, we have two more sections of our meeting. This is a report on one of the local issues that I'm going to give relative to a subject that was brought up a little earlier. I think Alan mentioned it. Last Friday, I attended a meeting at the County Council, and believe it or not, they were going to give a vote, a final vote, on a bill that would define what is an agricultural consumer. So I told the council, we're all agricultural consumers. They were thinking, whoever got this, it's Vic Victorino's committee, the Water Resource Committee, they're thinking that an agricultural consumer is somebody who does $10,000 or more a year on the land. And that person, one second. Consumer. Consumer. They're thinking that that person then will have a right to have water sold to them at agricultural rates. And if you don't qualify as an agricultural consumer, you will then have residential rates. Now, it's more insidious than this. I contacted Scott Taruma at the assessment office. The assessment office is what the office that sends us our tax bills. And his office, he says, that once the definition of agricultural consumer is laid out, then they will tax accordingly. So if a person doesn't have water, agricultural consumer tax rates on the water rates on the cost of water, then that property will be taxed as a residence. It's insidious. The government right now is scrambling to get as much money as they can get. And they're rewriting laws quickly. Fortunately, Friday they did not, in the first reading of this bill, they sent it back to committee. And fortunately, they're coming up against the round of budget hearings that are coming up and meetings. So it's very likely this won't see the light of day again for a few months. And we have time. And I want to encourage everyone to communicate with the Water Resource Committee your views on this subject. It's very, very important. I always tell people, if you're going to write, don't send an email. Email don't have to be read. Email can be buried. No one has to see an email. Send a fax. Somebody has to see the fax and they have to do something with the fax. The fax number for Mr. Victorino and that committee is 270-7686. 270-7686.
Hey, Roy?
Yes.
We're getting all the names of people here, and could you send us an email about that?
Yeah. Keep this in there.
Oh, yeah. Well, that reminds me, we have a yellow clipboard here. Jim's got it in the back. Please sign up. Make sure your name is legible. Make sure that you've got your email address, and we will definitely communicate with you. Everybody. Why don't we send that around now? Just pass it around, Jim. And
No hieroglyphics, please.
Give us that fax number again, please.
Fax number is 270-7686. I'd like to read to you, excuse me?
It's on the county website also.
Yeah, but it's difficult to find these things sometimes.
Bill number?
10-43. Yes, we were in the elevator together. I'm going to read to you the definition of agriculture as it exists today and signed by Hannibal Tavares in 1981. This is what we're operating under today as a definition, as compared to what they're trying to put through to change. This is the way it reads today. The term agricultural use shall mean lands actually put to agricultural use, adhering to acceptable standards to produce crop, specific livestock, including ranching use, period. Actually, this is the way it reads. Actually put to agricultural use shall deem to be when crops are actually in cultivation and farm management efforts such as weed or pruning control, plowing, including housing, fencing, and water facilities for livestock, and pasturing of animals are clearly evident. It does not include nor apply to areas used primarily as yard space, setbacks, or open landscape associated with residential use, planted with fruit and ornamental trees, flowers, and vegetables, primarily for home use. Now, in the world today, this was written in 1981, when gasoline was what? How much was gasoline a gallon in 1981? Maybe 70 cents? In this time, in this age, perhaps that idea that primarily for home use applied. But in our world today, all of us need to think about how we can farm in one way or another. And the rules should be expanded, and of course that's why we're here today, to celebrate farming and farmers, and that includes all of us, potentially in one way or the other. One other thing I want to show you, that you can find this, matter of fact, you have to find this on the county website. You can request for agricultural taxation of your land. I'm sure many here are taxed as agricultural. Your land is taxed as agriculture as opposed to residential. And there's also a form called the petition to dedicate land for agricultural use. And if you are not in these categories now, you might consider it and add your voice to the growing need to have a sensible new legislation as opposed to the kind of legislation that they're discussing right now, which is very, very dangerous for the future of Maui. Very, very dangerous for all of us. Okay, that'll take care of that section of the meeting. And now for our last section will be HFU legislation and annual membership meeting update. Vincent Mina.